Hey there, welcome to another episode of If I Was Starting Today. I'm your host, Jim Huffman, and today we're diving into something truly special. This might be my highlight of the year, maybe the decade, I don't know. I had an incredible chance to spend 90 minutes with none other than billionaire Andrew Wilkinson and his business partner, Chris Sparling. These are the guys behind Tiny, a fund that's got its hands in over 80 companies. They started as MetaLab, a design agency, started making really good money, and then wanted to be the Berkshire Hathaway of the internet and bought up companies. And now they have over 80, and they're publicly traded on the Canadian Stock Exchange. And guess what? I got the golden ticket, thanks to some founder friends in my EO group, to meet them in person. So here's how it went down. We hopped on a prop plane leaving Seattle to go to Victoria. That was a near-death experience in itself. We'll talk about it. We made it to Victoria, and that's where it all went down. We got to go to their headquarters, which is actually a mansion on the water, and then we got to have a private meeting with them and a lunch. And part of the meeting is confidential, so we can't hit on everything, but there's plenty that we can get into. And joining me to talk about it are my two friends from my entrepreneurship group, Adam and Adon. These aren't just buddies; these are founders that have high seven-figure companies. And I'll let them talk about that. We're going to break down everything from this idea of shooting your shot and what it takes to meet somebody, lessons learned from talking with Andrew and Chris, and finally, how I might have blown my chance at having a big break with them. And stick around, because at the end, we've got a couple half-baked startup ideas that we're kind of ruminating on that we'd love to get your thoughts on. This episode, it's a fun one. It's all over the place. It was probably the most fun one for me to record, but really hope you enjoy today's episode.
You cannot invent and pioneer if you cannot accept failure.
We wanted people that were insanely great at what they did.
Nobody was making any money at all. Most people thought the internet was going to be a fad.
All right, on the podcast today, I have two friends that are near and dear to my heart that are on. One, Adam Weiler, who was on episode 95. Adam, do you remember that? That was a magical time.
Highest rated pod of all time.
Yeah, and actually, that episode, I
By
had
my
people
mom.
reach out to me because do you remember our meet cute when we first met? It was at the Starbucks in Queen Anne on the Hill. You were sitting outside in all black with a stroller without a child in it, and then we proceeded to walk around Queen Anne for 45 minutes talking about life and business with no baby but a stroller.
There's no more awkward period than when you drop a kid off and you're walking around in an empty stroller, and like you just want a big sign that says like, I just dropped a kid off, trust me, like there was a child in here.
Yeah.
I think that sign, if you're asking people to trust you, is just going to make it worse for you, you know?
Well, and it's two guys with these huge like black
Bracelet or
puffers
something.
walking around with a baby
Looking
with
for a child to
stroller.
kidnap. That's beautiful.
And then Adon, our meet cute was very similar. We met over Zoom, and I remember like before joining our EO forum, I met Adon over Zoom. He had like weird backlighting. I think it was intentional, so he was very ominous. And I think within 3 minutes, it's like, how much revenue do you have? How much profit? How much do you pay yourself? And it was equally worthy of a rom-com. Do you remember that, Adon?
I don't, but that sounds like most of my conversations with
Sounds on
people, so
brand.
it checks out.
But Adam, do you mind? I'm sure everyone listened to episode 95. It was amazing. But can you give just a quick background on yourself?
Yeah. So Adam Weiler with Implicit, we are a leading marketplace agency. So it means we handle Amazon, TikTok shops for consumer packaged good brands, heavy in supplement, beauty, pet space as well.
Nice. So yeah, multi seven-figure brand, basically what Growth It does, but on Amazon, but much more impressive. And then Adon has refused to come on the podcast because of his mini monopoly and amazing things that he's doing. But you said down the road you will. I'm kind of giving you grief, but do you want to say at a high level what you do, Adon? Your two jobs, if you don't mind.
So I'm in between jobs if anyone is looking to hire. I started a company called Test Innovators, and we've built an online test prep platform, and we do other educational services for students and schools. And then I'm just winding down. Let's see, I'm still, as of right now, my email has not been blocked off, but I am in the waning moments of my running Israel's quantum computing center. It's a long story, but I'm winding that down, and I'm looking for my next thing. And there's about 8 ideas I'm working on in parallel right now, but we'll save that for some other conversation.
Yeah, that's super
Nice.
exciting. And one
Just go
thing
straight to
Adon is,
that.
yeah, one thing Adon's done so well is like built this amazing tech company and, gone to this executive level and has the team running it, which is extremely impressive. But well, cool. Wait, so how do we know each other?
We joined the same cult.
Craigslist, casual encounters.
Yeah, so we know each other through it's called EO Entrepreneurship Organization. It is a business cult. It is a way to buy friends, which I'm perfectly fine with doing that. I mean,
I was
Adam,
in a
you've been
fraternity,
yeah,
so yeah.
yeah, Adam, you've been in it the longest. So, like someone that's clueless, like how would you explain it to people? And like what is it?
Um, yeah, the TLDR is it's lonely when you're running a business, especially if you've got a bunch of employees that you can't always share everything with. The ups and downs, it's really volatile to run a business, and we get together once a month and talk about what's going right, what's not going right in business, family, and personal. And it's pretty amazing to see that we all share similar ups and downs, no matter the industry, no matter the niche, no matter the size of business. So it's nice to be able to relate with other people.
Anything you'd add to
I,
that, Adam?
I think it's just worth adding the sort of the context is we all do run businesses of similar size. There's nobody who's, we have no Fortune 500 CEOs in our group yet.
Yeah.
I know Jim is going to be there soon, but for the time being, we're not there. And so it is, there's a lot of highly relevant things, and I think there's, when you are in a larger organization, you get a lot of feedback from peers, and you get ideas and hear, how do you go through recruiting, and what are your metrics, and then also, as a business scales, the other types of challenges you face, like what am I going to do with all my money and things like that.
Yeah, tough conversations to be had. But no, that's the cool part, and I like it because there's not a lot of like flexing or signaling. Because a lot of times, if you go to like a networking event, it's like, oh, I'm good, it's going well, I'm crushing it. But with EO, this Gestalt format, it's like we
Dude,
don't give
the Honda
advice.
Pilot, Honda Pilot. I'm flexing,
Yeah,
flexing on everyone.
flex and
Yeah. Well,
fully
I do
loaded
have the
minivan.
minivan is a little, it's pretty
It's
badass.
very fancy.
It is a very
Yeah.
fancy one.
Yeah, but I do love the Gestalt format of, you speak in like I instead of you statements, past tense. You don't give advice, you give experience shares. So that's helpful. But well, cool. So that's how we know each other. And there every year we do a retreat, and some forums do epic stuff. They go to like Bali or Thailand or whatever. Our forum has a lot of founders with young kids. So we go to epic places like Leavenworth, Washington or Victoria. And this year, Adon and Adam were tasked with doing our annual retreat. And Adon did something that might have made, if I had like my own time person of the year, right now, Adon is in that slot for the retreat he pulled together. So we're going to Victoria, and Adon, in Adon fashion, was able to get a meeting with Andrew Wilkinson by using his like stealth black belt level
Well,
negotiation
let's just
tactic.
talk about that. And I think that's a theme that I wanted to talk on today.
Mm-hmm.
And that theme is shoot your shot. So, Don, we
I know what
had
this is going to come back to.
we, we had talked about it, and kind of what got into you, or like talk us through the process, and like what did you do?
So I think that the meta level, just kind of where I am right now in life, is that I feel like it's time to kind of go big and not really hold back. on any front. So that's, I think, the underlying current in my life right now. And so with that, thinking about, going up to Victoria, thinking about what is the most exciting, the best possible thing we could do. Obviously we are all fans of Andrew's. Some of us are mega, fangirls, I would say. I don't know if he's gonna be listening to this. So we should maybe.
Absolutely, he'll be listening to this.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So then he should know that, like, I believe you've got a couple posters up in your room, right, Jim? Is that?
Yeah, they're signed. So yeah, absolutely.
So that was the context. And I think the other thing that I realized, we are kind of used to it in EO, that our forum is just a group of people, and we give each other shit all the time. But if you kind of zoom out, it is a fairly impressive group of people. At least on paper we're impressive. So I was like, you know what, let's like put this thing together and see if there's an opportunity. And also, some of us are, if not today, sort of getting into the stage where we might be interested in selling our businesses at some point. And as we all know, Andrew is buying up businesses. So the idea was, let's do this, let's shoot our shot. And what I did was, I re-listened to one or two of his podcasts and just really heard what he's looking for, and then tailored an email saying, we have exactly what you're looking for, and we'd love to meet up, and we will show up anywhere, anytime. We will have coffee. We'll just, do you want us to sing you a lullaby at night? And that's our opportunity to meet you. And I guess that was the genesis of it.
Yeah, and to break it down, like their company Tiny acquires companies that do have profits of over $1 million per year. So Adon was very smart in crafting the email. Like, we have 8 potential businesses you could acquire. We will come to you. Your deal flow will fly to you, and you can meet us, right? And so it's kind of like this no-brainer offer. And the fact that you sent that and you got a response is just like, who should we email next? Is like my next question. If we could put our
question
powers
about
together.
that, and I've been thinking about it. Do you think, like, Andrew lives in Victoria? I think strategically. I think he enjoys being the biggest fish in that pond, and people come to him, versus he's number 7,000 in San Francisco as far, right? It's like, but in Victoria he's number 1. The customs guys heard of him when we were coming into the country.
We asked him, like, what are you here for? Like, oh, we're gonna meet up with Andrew. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, cool. I've heard of him. Yeah.
Like, this is a customs immigrant. Like, if you ask a TSA guy at LAX or JFK about some billionaire in the city, they're like, I don't know who you're talking about.
All right, so my other take, should we move to Guthrie, Oklahoma and be like the big dogs? Is that the other takeaway? Like, be a big fish in a small pond?
We Googled it. Victoria, Canada has 317 days of sunshine a year, 5 times more than where we are in cloudy Seattle. That they've been holding out on us. So if Guthrie, Oklahoma has a microclimate, we could talk.
Yeah, it's a whole nother conversation. So I think that's a good theme on this, is like, shoot your shot. So Adon makes this happen. He gets this meeting, and now it's go time. So we have 90 minutes. It was initially at a coffee shop, but then we get elevated to come to their office. So I want to get to their office in a second, because it's honestly, my takeaway from their office, which is actually essentially a mansion on the water, is rethink the way you work and design your life. But like, do you want to talk, like, leading up to that day, like why this was potentially the best day of someone's life on this podcast?
I mean, all I can tell you about the day that you didn't really see, but Adam did see, is we decided, there's one company that flies directly from Seattle to Victoria, and it's a float plane company called Kenmore Air. And this is the middle of winter, and there's like snow, and there's wind, and there's rain. And so there was a hot moment there where we were going to drive up to Victoria. We were going to wake up at 5 a.m. to make it, because obviously we were not going to let the dream die. And so we ended up it moved from a float plane to a propeller plane. I don't know if you want to talk about our near-death experience.
Did we fly private? Can we tell people we flew private? There was that guy Mark on the plane. So.
There was an awesome, there was a random guy on the plane that took a picture with us. They're like, hey, which was amazing. Yeah, so this was a plane that had 8 spots, and there were 7 of us. We get into the plane. I believe a I don't know, 14-year-old, maybe 16-year-old gets into
He
the
has learner's
cockpit.
permit.
Yeah, gets into the cockpit, and we discover later that Kenmore Air is a sort of a stopping ground for, where as you are advancing to become a
You
commercial,
learn to fly
you
on
learn to fly
Kenmore
with
A
us.
Air.
real pilot.
Those that survive, those that don't kill their, themselves and
Yeah.
everyone else, end up becoming real pilots. So, anyways, we have this 16-year-old. It's like it might be a little bumpy when we get to Victoria, and as we are taking off, it's extremely bumpy. And so I don't know about you guys, but I thought we were going to die a few times, and I think what made
You
it a
went
lot worse.
sideways.
Yeah. Like you're used to turbulence and you kind of go up and down a little bit. You don't usually kind of get like
Turn.
these kinds of
Turn.
shifts. It was pretty rough, and then I obviously was pretty worried because he said that Victoria is where the turbulence was, and this was when we were above Seattle still. So it was a little scary, but we made it.
I think to touch on that, and I don't know if you were going to cover this, Jim. I think hitting that adrenaline bump in the beginning set us up. It was like I've been on retreats before, and you kind of slow roll it. You go to the airport, you go to the hotel, you check, you got this downtime, you maybe do dinner the first night, and it's like, okay, and then it builds. This we ran straight into a cloud, got shaken about, and then went straight to the tiny office.
Yeah, we had sideways rain like coming at us. Like some people wake up and they cold plunge. I prefer to take a Kenmore Air flight to kind of get the system going. So we fly private-ish with a guy named Mark, and then we land in Victoria. We're alive. The heart's pumping, and Adon's like, it is go time to go to Tiny. So we get in our black cars or our Prius Ubers, and we drop off the luggage at the
No black cars on the island, by the way.
Yeah, no black
There's
cars. So we go. So initially it was going to be at the coffee shop. I'm like, okay, that's fine. Meet him at a coffee shop. But then we get the upgrade to go to their office, and their office isn't in like downtown Victoria.
But also the upgrade. Before we get the upgrade, we also get the upgrade that Chris, his partner, is also joining. It's like boom, boom, double.
Yeah, that was huge. Which I want to talk about him because Andrew is, I feel like, the public facing person as opposed to Chris. Chris was equally impressive, and so I want to hit on that. Right,
awesome.
He's like the Munger to his Buffett, I guess. So their office isn't in downtown Victoria. Like, no, we don't want to do that. Let's like lifestyle design this, Tim Ferriss this. Let's buy a sick mansion that overlooks the water and let's office there. So we're going through, like, imagine your nicest neighborhood and roll up to the nicest house overlooking the water, right? And so we get to this house and we ring the doorbell, and who answered? Is it an assistant? Is it Andrew or Chris? No, obviously it's their personal chef, Sergio, because that's how you roll, right? And so I'm just like, first I'm like, this is so smart. Then say I'm like, we're doing this wrong. I was like, we need to have a meeting of minds and get a personal chef ASAP. But
shout out Sergio.
Yeah. But I mean, I thought that house was office was, it really made me rethink how I'm working.
I thought it was one of the, we've had discussions in EO, like, what do you do if you had way more money and like a way more successful business? And a lot of times it just didn't make sense to me. Like, okay, great. I guess you fly private more often than we do on Kenmore Air. But besides that, like, I feel great. That experience with their chef in their office and the view just made so much sense to me, because like all three of us, we run businesses with distributed teams.
Here's the thing. We could do that, you guys. Like we could do that right now.
You have which house? Where? Let's do this. Let's go.
All right, we're going to Zillow right now. I mean, that's the thing.
Exactly.
Is also Seattle. No, but that's also the problem. Is that house in Seattle would probably be like $20 million.
Oh my gosh, it was huge.
I think we can rent something like that. I think we can rent something. Maybe we don't need all the space. We can rent something pretty baller, that same feel for $10K, $15K maybe.
Well, I mean, I think you need it more than anyone else. I know you're hiding behind
I'm literally
your fake background right now.
The furnace room.
Yeah,
I'm blaming Charlie, my 19-month-old, for kicking me out of the nice office, and now I'm in the furnace room.
One day. And so we get there, and like Sergio's walking us around, and I just like that. Like, you take your shoes off.
Hey, Kyle.
It's like, yeah, oh yeah, shout out Kyle. She's going live on the pod. One note: Lena did not take her boots off. I don't know if they noticed that, but I just want that to be, let the record say, it's probably for her outfit,
Oh.
but maybe we won't be invited back.
No.
But so we're there for lunch,
And I was like, I'm like, you've taken your shoes off at every single house. Like, it's, she's like traditionally Korean. Shoes off. Like, that was like the oddest move. And she's like, yeah, I know. I didn't want to. I felt comfortable. And I'm like, all right, you do you.
Yeah, it was a height thing. So I know we're 20 minutes into this, and people are like, okay, how'd the meeting?
We haven't got anywhere.
Okay, so let's get into it. We're there for like 5 to 7 minutes, and then they arrive. First off, Andrew's like 6'9". He is a tall
I had the under.
gentleman.
Yeah.
I lost that bet. Like, you guys both said he was over 6'4", and I was like, "There's no way." I thought he had like
5'2".
he had like
yeah.
he had that like 5'10" like powerful like outgoing energy. You don't get that outgoing energy and be 6'9".
Yeah, it's not
at
cool.
the same. It's like
it's too much.
Yeah, that's like saves some for the rest of us.
He's on some growth hormones or something. But like, and the other thing, well, anyway, we can kind of get into the meeting, but I've got my notes here. But like, where we had them for basically 90 minutes. Even Sergio, the chef, shout out Sergio, go to his restaurant. He says, he's like, these meetings usually end on time, if not early. You guys went over, and I actually heard a lot of laughing. So in my book, I'm like, best meeting of the year for sure for these guys. It is January. But like, what were your guys' takeaways from the meeting?
I mean, the theme repeats itself. Shoot your shot. It's crazy that we are in our businesses every day, where we run our business every day. We think about our business while we're sleeping. And yet when someone asks us to give a 30-second pitch about them, the range of quality on those varies widely, myself included. Some days I got it nailed. Other times I'm like, I do stuff and I don't know. Yeah. And so that was like a takeaway. It's like, oh shit, this needs to be dialed in, and I should have this at the whim. I should be able to say it like I'm going into surgery unconscious. I should be able to say it.
Yeah, especially when you talk to investors, like having your numbers dialed in, knowing it like the back of your hand. One, it's good so they can understand, but two, it shows you like are a good operator and executive, right? And so for me, that was something I was kind of like, okay, I need to like always have this like dialed in and have this known. But like, so here's how like high level how the meeting went. First, what was interesting is we came in as a forum. Andrew used to be an EO. Andrew and Chris are both in other communities or forums where he actually broke out from EO with his forum to create his own. I think both of them were in like 2 or 3 forums. We spent like the first 5 or 10 minutes. They were asking us questions like, how do you run your forum? How do you guys talk? And it was interesting. Like, they're in a forum just for money. They're in a forum for business, but how it's really skewed to talk more about life. As opposed to business. So that was kind of a cool way to start the meeting, having that theme in common, but just seeing how they have forums. Oh, and I think they mentioned they're in a forum with old people, and they like talking to gray hair. So I'm like, noted. I need more old friends. So I like that one.
Yeah, I also I just want to mention that I'm gonna give my answer in sort of the form of my experience, because we didn't explicitly say that everything that was discussed was confidential. But since we did initiate the conversation with them talking about forum, it kind of feels less right to share any specifics or too many specifics. So that was my experience. It was around the fact that these guys really were building structures around the lives that they want. And it was cool because they're about our age, I believe, a little bit older than me, but younger than you guys since you're pretty old. And so,
wow. Personally,
yeah. Well, people should know. The audience should know that you guys are getting up there. There's not a lot of years left of this podcast, So just that they were really designing their lives, and it was interesting to see and hear how they're doing it and the things that are important to them. Some of the questions we asked are like, what do you want to be doing differently in the next 10 years, or sort of what's your goal in 10 years? And hearing for them, a lot of it was around lifestyle design, and instead of an objective goal, it's sort of the ongoing experience of life, and structuring things in your life to enable you to do that was really interesting.
Yeah, that's a really good point because like we think, oh, you finally hit this milestone. But I think they hit this milestone a while ago as
Yeah.
far as being post-economic or doing well. And it's more around like being happy in the day-to-day. And we all kind of vented on like things that are tough around people problems. And for them, it's like things in around hiring CEOs and like how you compensate them. But at the end of the
Well,
day, it's like,
that stood out too, that they still had, you for being post-economic, they still had just as many issues. They still just
mm,
had, had the problems were higher level, and there were a level of complexity about them, but there's still issues around there.
mhm.
Less tactical and day to day though.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. Yeah, they did mention that. I thought that was an interesting point where instead of a putting out a fire, they've got, I think the analogy was
Iceberg.
they've got a missile coming their way
Yeah.
and they've got
Yeah.
but it's still, they still need to deal with it. And so there isn't maybe the same level of urgency on the day to day, but there's still problems, and their adrenal glands are pumping just as hard as ours. So I thought,
Yeah.
I mean, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and I've heard Andrew talk about this on other podcasts. I think this one's fair to say, but Adon, that's a good point. Of like some of the stuff we heard is probably confidential. But one thing he said multiple times is like, you know, we see them scaling Bali and all these companies. We think there's going to be all these synergies, and they're like, actually, no. Like, let these CEOs run independently. Like, don't share too many services, because then you can point fingers, you can make excuses why it's not working. I was forced to do this. And I was actually more impressed with like, oh wow, these are all truly individual companies and they're just helping kind of fund them. And they do say they want to be the Berkshire Hathaway of the internet. And I see that coming through. I don't know how many Warren Buffett quotes were made at that lunch, but I think it was
Oh,
over
at least,
seven. Sure, Kesh
oh,
dropped a few
yeah.
as well, but it just made me be like, oh, I need to reread every Warren Buffett book right now.
Yeah.
Honestly, was one of my big takeaways. I also have some thoughts on like who won the meeting, what were the highs and lows. And to the point of, so here's the thing. Don set me up for failure, and here's what happened.
That's true.
Before the meeting, he's like, guys, we're gonna have
Hold
three
on.
minutes.
Editor, could you put like an excuse alert warning like flashing, right? Like here, get ready.
Essentially, Don set me up for failure. He goes, Jim, you're gonna have 3 minutes to pitch your businesses to the tiny founders. So like, be prepared. So I'm like, I got this. I had my notes down. I might have rehearsed it. Like, I'm good. And then we're talking. All of a sudden, Andrew's like, yeah, let's go around the table. Let's take 30 seconds to talk about our businesses. You go first, Jim. And I'm just like deer in a headlight. It's like, can we add a zero to that? And so in the sense of shooting your shot, I was like, I'm going over 30 seconds. I just went for it. And honestly, I thought I nailed it. I had them on the edge of their seat.
Could we talk about your presentation, your
Please
talk for a second?
break it down. Shoot me straight.
And then
Shoot me straight, guys.
here it is. So Jim, let's talk, and could we talk about the new venture? Is that
I have no
open?
secrets. It is all public. Yes.
Okay. So Jim is recently bought in or on the exec team of a new t-shirt company. It is a sweat-proof, water-resistant t-shirt company. Jim starts talking about it. I could literally see Andrew and Chris levitating out of their seats.
Yeah.
They start leaning in. And Jim takes the glass of water off the table. And he's like, and if I dumped it on here, it would literally, and they're like, would it just repel? And he's like, yeah, it would. And then he puts the water back down. And everyone at the table is like, dump the water, and then it moves to the next person. So that if the theme is shoot your shot, you gotta shoot your shot. You gotta pour that water on.
And I think that in that moment we may have lost them completely because they were thinking, what kind of forum is this? What kind of group of people that are, there to support each other? Like, why didn't anybody just take a cup of water and just dump it on Jim? And I think they were looking at me, they were looking at you, Adam. They were looking at everyone, and they were saying,
Yeah.
"What the fuck's up with you guys? What's going on here?"
You have those moments in life where you look back where they could have been like, we had this lunch one time, and this guy poured a whole glass of water on his shirt, and we invested on the spot. And now it's worth 200 million.
Yeah, it's
right?
never the guy described pouring water on him with 2,000 words. It didn't.
I did go to their office that night with a bucket of water, just pouring on myself, and hopefully they got that in the security footage. So I essentially did it. But Yeah, after that moment, I just sat there with my hands between my legs. And so, yeah, I thought I won the meeting, but I clearly lost. And you know how, like, what are your peaks in life? I think that was my peak. And now it's just like there's nothing else. And so that was my pitch. I do have a pitch where there might have been, we'll say this with confidential, there might have been two businesses they were intrigued by, very intrigued by. And so that was interesting. And I thought of Don, you might have won the meeting with first you had the best seat, they're looking at you, you held court. However, you won the
You
meeting
middled well.
until one tragic error that you had where he is a shareholder in Tiny. I'm a shareholder in Tiny now as well. And he's like, hey, you know what? You guys should have like an annual
I've
meeting.
got this
They're like,
amazing idea that I'm sure you guys have never thought about.
I have the best idea. You guys should have an annual meeting like they do at Berkshire Hathaway. And they look at each other like, yeah, we do that. And at that moment, I feel like you were maybe exposed as a fraud, as a true fanboy of Tiny.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I was embarrassed for you guys because like you guys are associated with me, and at that moment, it was clear that we should not be taken seriously. But you know, I tried. I shot my shot. I shouldn't have, and then we were still sitting there for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, they stuck around.
Yeah. But it was no, I've got like a bunch of notes from we talked about like how to manage teams, how they think about getting like payback on their investments at a certain window. And honestly, the
Is
big
there
takeaway
is there
what's that?
anything? Oh, good.
No, go for it.
I was going to ask if you guys have either talked to your teams about anything that was mentioned or implemented anything that was mentioned at the lunch.
I don't want to be too specific, but there was some conversation about executive compensation and incentive structures, which was also interesting. And we talked about, you know, incentivizing for growth versus for profitability. And it was interesting to hear that they actually were not fully aware of what they were doing across all their businesses. So that was lovely to get behind the scenes information like that. And that's something that I'm definitely beginning to do is, again, really thinking about in business to just ensure that all incentives are perfectly aligned with what you're trying to do at each stage of the business.
You know, we've got a revenue goal and a profit goal for this year. And I came back and I spoke with my number two about, okay, well, what if we just focus on the profitability goal? Like, right, that's if we had to choose one, what does that change? You know, let's play out all the scenarios. Like, what's worst case? Everyone just fires everyone to maximize profit. They wouldn't do that because they still need to get the job done. But would they be incentivized to operate more efficiently? So we're going to actually incentivize that a little bit. We had revenue and profit as equal in our kind of bonus plans and KPIs, and we're going to incentivize just the profit this year and see what that does.
Interesting. I kind of like the idea of going back and forth. I'm just making this up on the fly, but I
Yeah.
think that there's being sort of maniacal about one versus the other and actually shifting back and forth depending on the stage in the business and what's going on in the market. Specifically for us right now, there are some very big changes and there's market share to be captured. And so we really need to move quickly. But also, since we did talk about profitability, one of the immediate things was we've got a fairly large team, not as big as yours, but fairly large. And one of the things that we're doing is we had our bookkeeper print out every single expense that we have and all of the recurring payments, like all the services. And we like obviously Slack and things like that are big ones. But then just let's go down every single thing and put that in front of the team and saying, guys, what are we not actually using, or is there a cheaper, better option? And that seems like, again, sort of that mentality. You don't need to let anyone go. You just can be focused on ensuring that the money that you're spending is still makes sense today. I think is a good move.
But also, like Jim and I are agency boys, right? We
Yeah.
get bought on EBITDA. If you're getting bought on top line, then those incentives should be aligned to maximize that. Where if let's say my revenue right now is around 5.5 million. If we were to get 99% EBITDA margins, right, and we got to 5 million of profit, $5 million and $1 of revenue, we would get bought on that 5 million of profit.
Yeah.
So it's almost like revenue doesn't matter in our cases versus profitability, as long as it's growing and as long as we can tell a story. So kind of aligning on how you're viewed in the marketplace and what the ultimate goals are.
Do you think that you run a pretty lean operation? Do you think that there's
No,
no?
no.
Okay.
I mean, it's tighter. It's
Yeah,
definitely gotten tighter, and we've done that. We've got virtual cards, credit cards for every new subscription that automatically expire on a certain date. And you
Love
wait to
that.
hear like,
nice.
hey, I needed that. Okay, like
I
we'll
like
get it
that.
back.
Nice.
So, but what? Yeah, I mean, we could,
How
we
many?
have utilization rates.
So how much money? What's the value? What's the multiple that you're expecting on your EBITDA for the value of the company?
It's dependent on macro. It's dependent on bands, right? So under a million is, call it 6x, and over a million you get to like the 6 to 8x, and over 3 million you're at the 10 to anywhere between 10 and 16x. So it's like those are the areas that we're looking at, and like those are the goals and thresholds to hit.
That's why I heard the same here. It's like if you get over 3 million in profit per year, the multiple goes up significantly because this company that was trying to like kind of roll us up. They're like, "Oh, you could help us get to this number faster." And I was like, "Oh wow, it's amazing to see those multiples." That's why like to sell before you hit that threshold, you're just leaving so much money on the table.
Well, so do you guys operate in the day to day like that? I mean, do you think about, okay, I could skip this flight and not go to this event? And I mean, let's say it's $1,000. I mean, that is worth up to $16,000. If you're talking about those higher
Yeah.
bands.
Yeah. I mean, like it, yes and no. It can't paralyze us from generating new revenue, but it should be a revenue generating activity if we're
Yeah,
doing that.
yeah.
Yeah. And going back to the question, like the main takeaways from the meeting, like for me, it was they've gone from operators to investors, right? And I think a lot of times companies don't grow or scale because founders get stuck in operator mode. And if you think of yourself as an investor, you're thinking of capital allocation, capital or resource allocation, which could be like how you allocate your team, your profits, your funding. And if you can think at that strategic level, you can do big things. So it made me want to put on that investor hat over the operator hat more. And then also how I incentivize versus revenue and profits. Because last year it was very much shifting to be, hey, we need to be efficient with profits. But honestly, and I like your point of like shifting it. Like we're at a pretty good space on how we're running things. Obviously, we can always be better, but it's like I want the team thinking top line because we've got some systems in place that'll probably break as we grow, but top line is what can get us to that next milestone. But it's a tough balancing act.
Well, what else
So,
stood out from the meeting? I got a couple. I got a couple
um,
quotes or a couple notes I took down.
the only other thing, Adam, you brought a gift that was very true to what they're into, and I thought that was a nice kind of like cherry on top of the sundae. And I like that I get credit for your thoughtfulness, so that was well done.
Everyone, yeah. So right after Charlie Munger passed away, I remember Andrew was on a podcast talking about the wisdom of Charlie. This was like after we had initially been confirmed to meet with them at the coffee shop. So I hopped on eBay and started looking for just like obscure Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett gifts, and there's a lot of random stuff out there. There's some really expensive stuff, but I wanted to find something in that something that I hope they didn't have. End up finding a Berkshire Hathaway Monopoly game with Charlie and Warren on it, and I think it landed. I don't know if it's been cracked and played yet, but that's in my mind. They're playing it every Friday
Yeah.
at the office on the table.
We should have just opened it and just been, just cancel the rest of your meetings today, guys.
Yeah,
We got some hotels to build out here.
and
I'm the top
Monopoly
hat.
like a
Let's go.
4 hour. It's like a
Yeah.
4 hour commitment too. That would have been the move. Shoot your shot.
Yeah.
You got to leave on top too. You got to leave when the energy's high. I'm a big fan. Like when my wife and I call it at a party, it's like when things are good, let's leave. You don't want to linger because I've been the lingerer. I've been that person. So yeah, I should have dumped the water on myself and then left.
And
it's
just walked away.
Yeah.
Or just walked into the sea there, and just
Yeah.
come out, dry shirt, wet pants.
Actually, that'd been cool.
That was I'm assuming they have views over that. I could only imagine. Like I felt great walking in there, right? It
Yeah.
was like beautiful art. It was like feng shuied out. It was designed beautifully. Feels like you could. It wasn't prison furniture in like a break room of like a corporate, cubicle farm. This was a beautiful place. You feel like your mind could just
Yeah.
think better in this
Yes.
place.
Yeah, you could see the sea, you could see the Olympic peninsula, which is, I feel like they owe us a little bit, because that actually is why they don't get a lot of rain. It's because our mountains protect them from rain. So I'm just saying, it
Yeah.
seems a little unfair.
Yeah.
Full credit. Yeah, no, it really, like, your environment has a huge impact on like your mental state for creativity and energy. And so, yeah, we need to buy a sick place. I think we need to get a boathouse or a house on South Lake Union, kind of
Oh
Sleepless
yeah.
in Seattle style, so we can just cold plunge, we can kayak on breaks.
That's a
It'll
great
maybe
idea.
invest in a hot tub boat. It'll be great. Well, no, what, and the other thing after that, I feel like the day was just on a high. We had an awesome dinner with the group at Sergio's restaurant. Adam literally ordered
Yeah,
all
so
in.
we had a restaurant already planned, and Andrew's like, "No, f that place. Go to Sergio's." We went to Sergio's spot. It's like kind of, he said it's like been in an up and coming area, and it's been that way for the last 15 years, right? Like it hasn't turned that corner. But you walk in, great energy. It's like cool people are there, and then they've got an option on the menu. Get everything. It's like one of everything. And it's like, of course you got to get that. We're with the big group, and the fucking food. Bleep me out. Excuse my friend. The food was amazing. Food was great.
Love gnocchi. It was very strong. I could have had two more of the fried chicken. I'm from Oklahoma, so give me more fried chicken. But it was, yeah, it was quite strong. And then yeah, Lena,
Part and parcel.
yes, part and parcel. We'll put the link there. Use our affiliate code. Get a free appetizer on us. It'll be great. But no, but the other funny thing from doing this retreat, it is fun to step away with other founders just to kind of ruminate on things, but we can't help ourselves as we're always like, we've got half big startup ideas. I will say in our conversation, there was one idea that I think has legs, and we need to crowdsource some people to pull it off. I don't know if we're prepared to go down that path, but I think I get full credit for the category, but Adam, you get credit for honing it in. Do you remember how the conversation started?
No, what
So I was like,
refresh
guys,
me.
Amazon started off of one stat. It's like the growth of like e-commerce and online businesses are growing at like 3,000% per year. Like nothing grows that fast unless it's in a petri dish. It's like, what is the next like one chart signal that you should build a business around? And just that week, it came out like, you drink water from plastic bottles, you get all these like tiny like microplastics in your body. That's probably not good for you. It's probably going to come out in other studies. It leads to horrible things like cancer. I haven't done the bro science on it, but that's what I'm believing. And
Yeah, for
so
sure.
smart water, every like bottled water in plastic bottles is gone. So someone's going to make a lot of money. So I'm like, guys, let's do milk carton, water, right? And it's like Adam's like, no, that's not the idea. You're playing chess. We need to play checkers, and you unloaded, and I'm ready to like go all in on this if we get that boathouse office.
And I'm gonna send you the picture to put up. So they test your water at the reservoir. They test it many times a day. They don't test
Shout
it
out
at
Glacier Water
your
in
house.
Washington. Shout out.
Yeah, we got beautiful water here at the reservoir. By the time it makes it through these 300-year-old pipes, it's crappy, and it's got a ton of stuff. There's the reservoir doesn't filter out birth control. Like there's a whole bro science thing around that, right? There's pharmaceuticals that people dump in their toilet that make it back to our water supply. So there's going to be a phase shift of whole house water filter, water quality. You can see it. I forgot the name of the shower filter company. They're already crushing. And that's just a
Jolie
shower.
is an awesome example. It's a shower head that has a filter in it. Think of it like a Brita filter. So before you shower, you're not putting this gross water on you. It's filtered, and they're crushing it right now.
But I mean, that's just like a band-aid on the cut. You really want to filter every piece of water that's coming through your house. I'll show you If you saw what these filters like,
I guess my question to you is a filter
Yeah.
enough? Because if something is dissolved in water, not to show off my science background, but if something is dissolved in the water, I mean, you need reverse osmosis. You need to go harder and stronger than just filters.
Dude, he just reverse
Yeah.
osmosis our idea.
Well, I mean, reverse osmosis is definitely part of it. I
Yeah.
think, the filters say that they get everything down to whatever micron level that is.
Okay.
Hold on, before Don, hey, by the way, we're
Yeah.
doing a framework right now, Don, of every idea is a good idea.
Okay, I'm sorry.
But
You know
Adam,
what?
give people the idea. Lay it on them.
Oh my god!
Yeah,
It's horrible.
the-
Sorry.
the,
No, not the idea. Not the idea. Not the idea. The
I
pic-
mean,
I'm trying to give some
Hype?
usable phrase. Like, if you're gonna show the picture, it's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's insane.
It's insane. And this was like 2 months of our nice neighborhood water that everyone in Seattle is drinking. So it's whole house water filters. They're going to become a part of every single home. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when. You need access to the main, you need an installation, and then there's a recurring theme of replacing that filter on a timely manner. So whether it's a bolt-on to an existing service company or a standalone service company, I think that if you're in an area and can prove a test, like can do either an instant test or a mail-in lab test to show people the quality, every guy I show this to is like, do not show my wife this, because they know that they will be forced to install a filter within the coming weeks. It's insane.
So essentially, for people listening, you have water that comes into your house from pipes. These pipes are old and disgusting. Adam puts a filter system in where you have to like drill into the pipes, put essentially like a pimped out Brita where the water gets cleaned out. This filter that was white after, I don't know, a few weeks became like brown. And he showed my wife and she's like almost gagged. And so basically, it's an in-home service where it's like we come in, we get into those pipes, we're going to put the filter system, and then we're going to come in and change it every quarter. And so I'm just like, it's not a matter of if this is going to happen, but when it's going to happen.
And who's gonna do it?
Adam, because he did it at his house. So we'll scale Adam.
Easy.
Yeah. But the thing that I like about marketing this is like I sell a lot of D2C brands where you're like doing digital ads. I don't truly know where the customers are. I do and don't. The thing that's exciting, it's like, oh, people in Queen Anne have pipes over 100 years old or whatever. It's like we know exactly where they live and we're going door to door. We're doing flyers. We're gonna, we're not gonna do the creepy pest control people. We're gonna flip it on its head. We're going after the guy that works at home. We're going to send some girls there as sales reps to try and close them. It's going to be great. And I think you take a page out of Jolie's book where they didn't market like, hey, get this filtered shower head. They market by like, hey, do you know what's in your water? So it's education over like conversion focused campaigns. And we do like free tests. And I wish you could get the name Mudwater because that's just the best name. But I don't know. We got
working name Dirt.
Dirt
it's
water.
Like you want it. I mean, we all know fear sells, and your kids are bathing in this stuff. You're showering in it. Your little dinky fridge filter is not catching this stuff.
Yeah.
And it's the crazy thing is you don't even have to scare people too much. You can just literally show them that here is a filter. This is 2 months of your water. What else? What other ideas you guys got?
Are you guys gonna do it though? Because like I kind of like it, and I kind of want to buy the service.
I'm a little nervous about scaling and training people in Adam's proprietary technology of installing this. I love the idea of marketing this thing, though. It would be so fun to market.
Yes, agreed.
Yeah, so
we're talking about these. We're not doing any of this.
That actually is my idea, and this is an idea that I've had for a while, and I'm happy to share it with the public now. And it's the idea, and maybe this exists, and you guys will tell me we'll have to cut this, but it's the idea. It's a meta idea, and what it is you just submit your ideas into some sort of platform, because and the whole concept is it's such a good idea that I don't even need to be the one to do it. I just want for it to get done and for it to just be solved. And you
Mm-hmm.
get enough of those, you get some algorithms on it, it just spits out ideas to people. And these are things that I don't need to own. I don't need, I just want to be the consumer of it. And this is an example, right? Like, somebody should do this. They should make it easy for me. I should be able to just like, they should be here right now. The girl should be walking up, asking me, showing me my neighbor's filter, and I should say yes, and that's
Mhm.
it. And I think that this whole concept of, so many times you talk to people and they're like, yeah, I've got this really good idea. Like, great, you're never gonna do anything about it. Let's be real.
Yeah.
Post it up on this thing. Let's again, maybe the magic of it is if you are one of the contributors and somebody does it, you can be, a free customer to it or whatever else it is. But it really is the idea that we've got to just make it easier for people to contribute their ideas that they would be happy for somebody else to do.
I Yeah, you almost have to make it vertical specific. Is your idea a app? Is it AI focused? Is it a service? Is it this? And then someone could be well armed to do this because like I do think that's something. It's like pump this idea. You have to figure out the economics of it.
There,
But back to the point
there
of building
was
this.
a platform like this for products. I think it was GE that hosted it, and they
Mm,
even attributed like input, like it was almost like open source group design. So I know they designed like a smart outlet, and people would get credit and points and even royalties assigned based on
mm.
their contribution to the project. It was pretty cool.
Well, that's
That's awesome.
interesting. I mean, what would the MVP of this be? I think it's kind of simple. You literally just start going door to door and asking people if they're interested in it to get traction. And if you get interested, then people interested, then it's like, okay, how many like trucks or people do you need to do this? Could you do some partnership deal with plumbers or pest control or lawn service that already have deals? And then we start getting influencers, Tim Ferriss, Andrew Huberman, Gwyneth Paltrow talking about this, and then it's world domination, right? It's that
I think
easy.
so. It's that sounds pretty easy.
All right,
And
so if
again,
anybody's
all of it,
listening to this and wants to hustle and be a CEO to run this, we can add some money, we can add some strategy. It's go time.
and you've got 3 customers.
Yes.
Two.
Two. Adam already
Oh,
did
yeah,
it, but someone's gonna have to repair what he did because I'm sure it'll break here in
Yeah.
a few months.
It
You're
made
gonna
it
want
through the first
that
freeze.
contract.
It made it through the first freeze. So
Yeah.
I'm good.
All right. So I've got the next idea. This one is something, it's not a like, you don't want to raise money for it, but someone could do this. And I think it's the fastest path to 7 figures without needing any real talent or skill. And so so you've seen Growth Assistant. It's a service you pay like $3,000 a month for. And it's people in the Philippines that are your growth assistant. They help like do the Facebook pixel tag. They'll write an email newsletter for you, and they're just a rocket ship, right? And so they're taking off. So I'm like, I love that model, a low price productized service that's they're kind of playing with the arbitrage opportunity with international labor. So my idea, I'm calling it AI Assistant.
That's a
And
great
it
idea.
is not a technology, it is a service. So all this stuff is coming out with AI. Everybody wants to do AI. No one's really doing it. They're just like playing around with Chat GPT. We create a service where we're like, we guarantee we will use AI to either make you more money than we cost or to win you more time back that will offset our cost. So what we do is we're like, all right, give us your tech stack. Boom, we get like Slack, Zoom, we get everything they're doing, all the AI features they're not using. We get their P&L, we look at all their expenses, we get their head count, and then we're looking where we save them money. It's like, oh wow, like you want to hire for these 2 roles, you don't need to, you can use AI to do that. Or wow, you're spending on all of these things, there's redundancy, you can use AI to do that. We create like a 90-day roadmap of like how we can optimize their entire system with AI. And then we have ongoing fees of like, hey, AI is moving and changing like crazy. You want to have your finger on the pulse. So every month we're going to be doing updates and tweaks. So yeah, AI assistants. What do you think about that?
It's not very scalable because you still need to go and sell.
Is this the part we shit on it, or do we?
No, you remember we do the
Sorry,
framework.
I'm
Every
sorry.
idea is a good idea.
Should we say
I think it's
something
awesome.
Nice
I think it's an
first,
awesome
and
idea.
then we shit on it?
I think it's an awesome idea, and I think you're right because most people, everyone feels like they should be doing something, and nobody knows exactly what to do. So I think it does answer that need, and I'm sure that if you went and talked to 100 businesses, you like they what are you doing about AI? They're probably not enough.
Yeah. So my point of riding a big wave, I don't know if this is going to become a big wave or it'll just flutter out, but there was this movement around, oh, you don't just need a chief financial officer, you need a chief automation officer who automates your stuff. So we ride the wave of, oh, if you need a chief automation officer, you definitely need AI assistants to support them.
Like a fractional chief automation officer is what you're talking about.
Exactly.
And I think that so a productized service or a service around AI, 1000%. It's like,
yeah.
Especially I don't have enough time. I mean, I live this stuff and I'm in it. I don't have enough time to stay up to date on all the latest.
Yeah.
Like, is this the best customer help desk? Is this the best call routing? Is this the best meeting transcription or sales assistance? But anything where you need access to like their P&L and like to justify getting your savings, like that's where the model breaks.
No, we're
Potentially,
still saying
I
yes.
think there's some issues.
We're at the stage of still saying yes.
Okay. Yeah. But 1,000,000%. I mean, every agency owner I know is talking about how they can add AI to their offerings or create an AI.
Oh, totally.
Agency.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think maybe since he almost said no, but it's a yes. It's just figuring out what is the lowest hanging fruit, and probably getting access to P&L is a little bit tougher. But is there something that what's like the entry point into every single conversation?
Yeah, I do think that's right. Like, almost make it specific to a tech stack. Oh, we go after people that are on these tech stacks because that's where we find the most efficiencies or whatever. Yeah.
Right. Yeah,
So,
and maybe like vertical, going after agencies that also write emails or run ads.
Yeah, it's all about margins with agencies, right? So they would care maybe the most. Yeah. That's my half-baked productized service idea.
A niche, legal, healthcare, something.
Yeah.
Maybe stay away from those because there's compliance around them, or construction or something like that.
Maybe plumbing.
Yeah.
Two for one.
Bundle the ideas. I mean, Adon, you're trying to think through 8 different ideas with all this newfound time. Like, how are you even approaching that?
I'm setting up as many conversations as I can with people that are much smarter than me. That's been my approach.
You're welcome.
Yeah, exactly like this one. And yeah, that's generally how I think. So I do a lot of reading and a lot of conversations and then building out prototypes. So that's the nice thing about the situation. Actually, right after this call, well, I'm now 1 minute late to my next meeting, which is somebody that is running through our data and beginning to aggregate and look at really unique things that we can do with AI, specifically in education.
So your ideas are big ideas that you're like, let's go big. When you say you're reading things, what are you reading?
So
how do you feel the funnel of ideas?
Yeah, I mean, it's both just finding things on AI. So being a part of a bunch of different, and I can share them different newsletters around AI, and then also biographies of people that are interesting.
So you're in on AI as
no, like, I'm also looking at things in quantum computing, and so it's kind of like
water filtration.
And water filtration using quantum mechanics maybe. Now there's also some I think advancements in the semiconductor industry that might be interesting that I'm exploring. So really kind of going all over the place into areas where I think that the world will I'm asking myself the question, how will the world be dramatically different in the future, and what can I do in those ways and in those places?
That's pretty cool. All right. Well, I know, Don, you're now 2 minutes late to your next meeting. Any closing remarks, Adam or Adon, around shooting your shot, around some of these half-baked ideas, around
shoot your shot, and be prepared to shoot your shot. I think that's the luck is preparation meets opportunity, and we got lucky, and now we've got a connection to follow up on, and I know they'll still remember you, even if you didn't pour the water. You should have poured the water, but you didn't. We will remember, pour the water.
Exactly. Pour the water. Or have better friends that will pour the water on you.
Actually, I'm gonna switch
that's really
forums, actually. Yeah. Forum 16 coming back. Well, cool. Well, thank you guys. This was fun. I'll probably see you soon. But good stuff, Adam. Thank you for having a better background. It was embarrassing before, so I appreciate it.
Shoot your shot.
All right, cool.
All right, guys. Talk to you
See
later.
you guys.
Bye.
Bye.